This episode is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors, Galaxy Finance. Sponsors and personal friends that I trust enough to go to with questions about my own finances. That's not a sales pitch, that's fact. Any questions, any queries, they have the solutions from home loan lending to complete financial planning. With official interest rates at an all-time low, the lenders want your business. With Galaxy Finance, they'll do all the work for you and find the best possible deal. They'll do it all. Get in contact, ask for Leanne, and mention Unfiltered for a free chat. A free chat. No obligations, a free chat just by mentioning Unfiltered. galaxyfinance.com.au is where you can find them. The great ones, they're different. They really are. Not better, just different. Sure, there's a physical power, a mental strength, a complex but resolute constitution too. There's a whole lot more than just the measurables. That's something else, that intangible. It separates us from them. Welcome to the Legends series on Andy Raymond Unfiltered. This bloke, he probably took care of your favourite player, and you may not have liked him for that, but you would have loved to play next to him. For all the intimidation, for all the physicality, the real guy, he's very different to what you'd probably imagine. But who is Jeremy Smith?
No, you've got me with the cracker right there, mate. Yeah, who is Jeremy Smith? I suppose just a happy, easy-go-lucky sort of type of guy. Yeah. Doesn't mind a beer or two or 10 or plenty.
Yes.
But I feel I'm pretty easygoing. A lot different to what you've seen me on the field, that's for sure.
Melbourne, St George, Illawarra, Cronulla and Newcastle as we sit here in 2021. Who's your team?
Oh, I love them all. I love the Knights because I finished at the Knights. Yeah. But definitely have a soft spot for the other three teams. Cronulla, after they're doing so well, or after they won their Premiership. I always say to a lot of people that that was on the back of my performance there in 2011.
Run with it.
and running with it, yes. Yeah. We had some dark times there, but pulled them out of the slump. But and definitely the Dragons, they were a great club. And Melbourne, obviously, the first team to give me my NRL start. So
where'd you play your best footy? With who, what year? If you had to narrow it down.
Probably 2000. I'd say 2008 in Melbourne. I'd say we had a fantastic team and we went on a great run and obviously we got beat by Manly that year, but we went on to win the World Cup as Kiwis and had a pretty fair year that year. The
forgotten fact: your first club was actually the merged Northern Eagles in 2002, right?
Yeah, something like that. It was a while ago. It was 2001 or 2002, I think.
What happened?
I don't know. I got the sack from there. Peter Sharp sacked me from there, and he ended up in Melbourne in 2004, and he said, that's the best thing I've ever done. I pretty much made your career by sacking you from there. And obviously, if anyone that knows Sharp, he's a lovable type of character, and he's a good man. But yeah, I suppose it was just I don't know, just not the right time, still a little bit immature, and went down there thinking I was a first grader and I was a nothing, a nobody, and carried on like a pork chop, and they just didn't like it one bit. So
it happens a lot. Young men are thrust into an old guy's position, and physically you might be ready, mentally completely different story.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the back when I first started, obviously went down to Manly. I thought it was all about getting on the piss and having a good time after the game, and footy was just a part of, I suppose, what was going to be. Yep. And I did like a drink then, and still like a drink now.
Still like a drink, yeah.
And it's just I just had the wrong mindset going down there. I just thought, I've got all the gear. I'm hanging around first graders, but yet to play first grade, and I think I just got a bit too far ahead of myself, and then. Obviously, I got picked up to go to Melbourne, and I really had to knuckle down there. And
It's part of the learning curve as a bloke, not just as a footballer. I think on and off the field, all of us, bar none, go through maturity issues and climb the learning ladder.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the game's a lot harder nowadays, being the way it is. Sometimes you might get a couple of strikes, but most of the time you one strike, you're out.
Yep.
Clubs just don't want to deal with that sort of behaviour anymore, and that's where it's at. And I suppose that's what it's led to the young blokes nowadays coming in, it being such hype around them and not performing, and obviously falling out the back door pretty quickly.
You'd return back to Q Cup. Did you think, okay, that's it, that was my chance, I've blown it, or Sharpie's blown it, and I'm not a first grader?
Yeah.
Or did you think you still were?
No, definitely. I thought my chance is done.
Yep.
I'd just come back. I was in between playing for Tweed or playing for Burleigh, and
Yep.
Tweed were just coming into the Queensland Cup, and then, and I sort of took Tweed and chose there, and I had a couple of good games at the right time of year, and obviously went and played residents and whatnot, and got picked up. Peter O'Sullivan picked us up to take us to Melbourne.
Sunday, August 15, 2004, you'd make your debut. It was round 23, playing against Canberra for Melbourne. This was the Storm lineup. Bill Slater, Matt Geyer, Steve Bell, Ben McDougall, Matt King. The halves, Scott Hill and Matt Orford. Forward pack, Robbie Kearns, Cameron Smith, Steve Kearney, Dave Kidwell, Dallas Johnson and Glenn Turner. The bench. Now, the bench was the home to 4 future internationals. Rodney Howe, Ryan Hoffman, Cooper Cronk and yourself, Craig Bellamy, was obviously the coach. An amazing lineup of superstars to debut with, mate, when you read it out like that.
It certainly is. You look back now, and I just sort of look back at that game and see the boys, but then didn't realise the magnitude of the player, the calibre player that we did have, and obviously Rodney Howe coming off the bench.
Yep.
Hoffman, it was a pretty good team.
What do you remember of your debut game?
Oh, it's pretty funny. I remember it pretty fondly, actually. I come on, my first touch, I scored a try.
Yep.
Cam Smithy Robbie Kearns, I was come on the field, supported Robbie Kearns. He offloaded it back to Cam Smith. I've done like a big loop around where Kearns had just been tackled. Smithy, obviously, he was pretty much over the line and just put it on the platter for me, and I fell over the line pretty much, and it was a try. But it was a real good game, and I just remember copping, I suppose the first time I went to Canberra, copping stick from all the Canberra fans, and they are second to none. They love the Raiders, and especially as a kid growing up, I was a Raiders fan too. And then
were you really?
Yeah, I was. And then obviously got to play against Ruben Wiki, who I looked at growing up as well. But definitely it was definitely one to remember.
So much has been said about Cameron Smith over the last 12 months. The 400 games and his retirement. His status in the game. What a lot of people have forgotten, because he's been so good in these last 10 years. He was dominant from the start, really. Maybe not as dominant, but he was always something special, even those early years back to 04.
Yes, definitely. I suppose with Cam, he was just always cool, calm, collective. Yep. He took everything in his stride. He's... What you see is what you got. He never looked frazzled. He was always composed, and he went on to lead Melbourne to a number of premierships. Yep. Obviously Australia so many times, but and he's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of people that don't like him for what they see, but if you ever got to sit down and have a drink with him or have a talk to him, he'd give you the time of day if you want to have a good chat to him.
Okay, setback number 2. 2 games in 04, none in 05. Why not?
I got sent back up to the Queensland Cup, and I just couldn't. I thought the QRL didn't like me as a player.
Yep.
They always tried to keep me on the suspended side of things, and I spent a fair bit of time on the sidelines in 2005, and I just couldn't put them together. I could play one game half decent for Norths.
Yep.
Suspended for 3. That year I played probably about 8 or 9 games and spent the rest on the sideline. I just couldn't I just couldn't get things flowing, and I went back and Bellyache pulled me aside and just said, what do you want to do? You want to concentrate on playing footy because I was still there or thereabouts, or do you want to, come along and give first crack a real good crack at it?
This episode is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors, Galaxy Finance. Sponsors and personal friends that I trust enough to go to with questions about my own finances. That's not a sales pitch, that's fact. Any questions, any queries, they have the solutions from home loan lending to complete financial planning. With official interest rates at an all-time low, the lenders want your business. With Galaxy Finance, they'll do all the work for you and find the best possible deal. They'll do it all. Get in contact, ask for Leanne, and mention Unfiltered for a free chat. A free chat. No obligations, a free chat just by mentioning Unfiltered. galaxyfinance.com.au is where you can find them. That was the chat.
That was the chat, yeah. I got that from him, and end of 2005 I trained, like we finished our season, and I trained from the end of the season right to the pre-season. So I come back and I was fit. Yeah. And I reached all the goals. That was probably the fittest I've ever been, and I just needed that to be able to get me mindset straight. And then obviously having my oldest daughter, she was 15 or 16 now, so having that as well at home and training, and I'd already done the hard work before the pre-season started, so I knew I was in pretty good stead.
Roughly the same age as where you start maturing off the field. It's amazing how things link up throughout our lives, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. 26, I was still, like I said, I was still maturing, and as a player and like as a young man too. It was took me a little bit to work out, but I got there in the end, I think.
How much did you have to change as a player? How much did you have to change as a bloke?
As a player, I think I just needed to be fitter, work harder on the little things that I did do right. It helped having Cam there as well, and Croc, and obviously 2006 we had a pretty fair lineup as well. And as a bloke, I think it was just having a baby has sort of reeled me back in, and sort of going out till stupid hours in the morning and waking up hungover with a baby is it's not the best feeling. No. But
Mick Crocker, as batshit crazy as he is, and we've done a Legend Series interview with him, a wonderful mentor, one of the most professional guys the game has seen in a long time. As I said, crazy and mad as a cut snake, but in terms of his rugby league, he is an absolute professional, or he developed into a professional.
Yeah, definitely. He was my training partner when he first come down to Melbourne, and after every session or weight session, he'd take me upstairs to the rowers, and we'd just go nut it out on the rowers. We'd have 3 minutes for 1,000 metres, and you'd get on off there, wobbly legs, about to spew, and I suppose that helped contribute or reform me into the player that I become, obviously off the back of him, and he doing everything that he's done in his career, and then me sort of just pretty much starting out where I was. He didn't like to be called Mick, he was Michael or Croc. Mick was his alter ego, and I've seen that a few times.
Oh, yes. That's a beauty too.
It is a beauty.
06, 07, 08 with Melbourne, 3 grand finals, 1 win, 2 losses. The 06 grand final, you went down to Brisbane 15-8. What's your standout memory of that day?
Oh, I just remember running out there, like, overawed. My first grand final. Yeah. Thought, getting to the grand final seems pretty easy.
Yeah.
Obviously went out there, the bright lights, stunned mullet, just couldn't really put it together. I was run off my feet. I got on the field. I come on, and it was about, it must have been about 20 to go, or 15 to go. had one hit up, made 3 tackles, I was gone. I was fatigued, like I was just knocked up real quick.
Because you started from the interchange your first 2 GFs. I would imagine the energy and the adrenaline sitting on the sideline it just tear you apart.
Yeah, definitely. And I just got on the field and I'm normally pretty composed, and I just lost it. I couldn't put it together and give away a penalty, and then obviously it just snowballed from there, and it wasn't the fondest memory.
07 grand final was the chance to erase that memory. You played Manly. You won 34-8, your first premiership. What do you recall about that day?
I knew what to expect when I got out there. Yep. The crowd, the way everything was going. I'd been there and done it before, so I knew what to expect, when to pump myself up, when to get going, and like I said, it was good. I made a little half break. I remember putting Clint Newton into the backfield and told him he bombed a try, but he reckons he passed to Bill, and Bill's like could have passed back to him, but I said, mate, I'll put you away, and you just couldn't seal the deal.
Do you still remember the first one fondly? 07
win. The first win?
Yeah, do you still remember it fondly?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we played pretty well that day. And
very much.
The little things that we did practice for at training did come off. It was just a well-oiled machine that day. Everything we did turned to gold. It was one of the fondest memories.
08. You started in the second row with Mick Crocker, a day that wouldn't end well.
Imagine the Beaver putting one over here now.
The boy from Narrabeen, who debuted in '93. Now, it's come from Alford to Beaver. He got it away for Robertson. He got it back for the Beaver. Whoa! Steve Menzies has scored. Menzies is over the line. Stephen Menzies has scored in the grand final. His departing grand final.
A 40-point loss, 40-0 to Manly. What went wrong?
Oh, Manly were just on fire. I credit to Manly. Nothing that we could do would. I don't think no team in the NRL would have beaten them that day. Yep. They were just on. When you come up with a red hot team like that are on, every little mistake you make, they make you pay for, and they made us pay dearly. It cost us 40 that day.
I interviewed the legend Bob McCarthy recently. He still to this day has regrets and pain from the 1969 grand final 52 years ago, and it hurts that much. I just saw the look in your eye and your demeanour change when I mentioned that grand final. Does it still hurt today?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose you're in the record books for a reason now. 40 zip. I don't know. There's just nothing that we could have done or did try to do that would have paid off. Or like I said, Manly were on, and it happened to us in 2006 where we got beat. Obviously, we beat them in 2007, and they come back and out, knowing what to expect. And timing is everything. Especially in the final series. You've got to run into the final series with good weight behind you, or you've just limped in there. And I think after Broncos, Cam was gone, and I think we played Cronulla the following week. Cam and I missed that week, and then we weren't an oiled machine. We were limping in.
You
there.
limped in.
Yeah.
That'd be your last game for Melbourne. You're off to the Dragons. Business decision? Is that what it was?
No, Bellyache just said to me, pretty much was. He just pulled me aside and just said, we can't sort of keep you around too much longer. I think I still had another year on my contract there, but he just said that's football. I'm letting you go now. I'm not I want to let you go. Which the type of man he is, and the type of relationship that we struck up was, I was happy for him to come and tell me that during the year. I met with the Dragons in 2007 to go there for 2008.
Okay.
And that just didn't eventuate. I was pretty happy where I was, and I was sort of hoping a few things went my way so I could stay at the Storm a little bit longer, but wasn't to be. So it's I suppose moving to the Dragons wasn't a bad thing either.
Absolutely, it wasn't a bad thing. 2 years with the Dragons, 9 and 10. 2 minor premierships and that grand final win over the Roosters in the second year.
Hornby knows there's a chance. Soward puts a little kick in. There's a try for Gasnier. Gasnier, I think, has got the first try.
And Mark Gasnier, with speed, momentum, catches the ball, gets it down just inside the dead ball line for opening points.
B behind Scott, and here's Boyd into the back. Trouble, trouble, trouble. Nightingale has scored for the Dragons.
Did winning a premiership for the second time, did it feel any different from the first time, or didn't it quite live up to the first one?
It didn't quite live up to the first one.
Yeah.
Not hype-wise, but just I was happy to see the people around me celebrate like I celebrated in 2007. You know, like, and I just remember sitting back after the whistle had gone and just watching everyone just, you know, explode, and you know, we just achieved something that a lot of people don't get to achieve in rugby league, and here I am. I've got to do it twice. Yeah. So I suppose, you know, just watching everyone's emotions was, you know, that's where I took it all in. Whereas the first one, I was doing what they were doing. You know what I mean? So
your role had changed as well. You'd gone from the young kid to the guy
leader.
The Dragons had bought as a leader.
Yeah. So I suppose I knew what to expect, and I said to him before the game, I just said, like, this is it. You know, you've got to make whatever you do, you make your first effort, your best effort, and that will set you up for the game. And we went out there, and, you know, credit to the Roosters. You know, they put up a good fight in the first half. It was a tough game, and it wasn't until, you know, we started sort of I think at half time we were down 8-6 or 8-4, I think, maybe half time.
I think you guys got 3 tries in the last 14, 15 minutes. We hope you're enjoying the Jeremy Smith story. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening so the next episode drops immediately. And we'd love a 5-star rating and review to help us spread the word as we look to expand the Unfiltered brand and bring you more. Make sure you come back soon, legends. This episode is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors at Griffin Air Conditioning. You can find them at griffinair.com.au and tell them Unfiltered sent you for a cool deal. Welcome back to Andy Raymond Unfiltered, the Jeremy Smith story. Previously, we spoke about the mischance he thought would cost him an NRL career. His story is unique, successful, and intriguing. It continues. You mentioned your role there at the Dragons was one of a leader. What's a leader to you?
Well, a leader to me, for me, like when I had leaders at Melbourne, I had Robbie Kearns, Steve Kearney, Dave Kidwell, that when the shit was about to hit the fan, it was going to get them first. And to me, that's what I used to take out of it. You jump on my back and we're going this way. I'll pave the way for you. It's fine. So for me, a leader was showing them the way and never looking under pressure, or always being cool, calm, even when the ship was going down. Yeah, he was still there to keep fighting to the end. Happy to wear the bruises almost. Yeah, definitely.
Hell of a footy side that Dragons won in 2010. Wow.
It was like that 2010 side was a real good team. I suppose, but in saying that, you know, I hate to say it, but if Melbourne were there that year, I don't know, it could have been a different story.
Yep.
It's just, I feel like that we beat every team, but we didn't beat Melbourne because Melbourne obviously of what happened in 2010 to Melbourne.
The salary cap scandal broke around this time, stripped the Storm of their points, also stripped the Storm of the 2007 Premiership. What was your immediate reaction when you found out that news? Because that impacted you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it didn't really bother me because I still had the ring to show it. You know, I still had the ring. I've got the tattoo. You know, I've still got the memories to see that game, to visualise that game, and say, well, you know, they haven't taken anything from us because we've got proof.
Yep.
The only thing that we haven't got proof on is they've taken the little medallion bit off the trophy. Because when in 2010, I there's one missing here. Even with the minor premierships, when we won them with the Dragons, I still looked for, because we won them in 2006, 7 and 8.
Yep.
And I look back there, and then I've gone 9 and 10.
In Dragons,
Yeah, so I pretty much won 5 premierships in a row.
Yeah.
Minor premierships.
As we sit here today, do you consider yourself a 2007 Premiership winner? Most of your teammates from that day do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course I do. We lived and breathed, and we done the hard yards that year, and we paid the ultimate price by getting to the grand final, and then we got to the grand final and we won the grand final.
It wasn't easy for anyone, but at least in Melbourne, the Melbourne guys were grouped together. They had a support mechanism around them.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah.
How tough was it?
Yeah, no, definitely, especially when you got the media coming up and trying to talk to you about what's happening, and I'm just like, well, you can see what's happened. Like, I've got no say in what's going on.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's used there to trying to make something out of nothing, and obviously the NRL put their foot down and say there's nothing I can do about it. But no, definitely, I still think that we won that year. We were the best team all year, and we proved it grand final day.
Time for a change to Cronulla for 2 years. You didn't experience the same success in terms of results. Did you enjoy your time at the Sharks?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The first game we went down there and we had a good off season. I think it was 2011. We went down to Canberra and got touched by 50. I remember getting on the bus back, my head in my hands, going, "What have I done? Have I made the wrong decision here?" But then obviously, it was a learning curve, and we had a few first graders. We had a few players that were fringe first graders, but we didn't have a first grade team as such. It wasn't until 2012 that we bought and we had more first graders that we were, we made the semi-finals that year. So it was a lot different, but you live and learn, and you make friends along the way that are in the same boat as you. Like, obviously Bomber, he's gone through the same now. If I wasn't at Cronulla, I probably wouldn't know him as well as I do.
They were building a roster, but building a culture and building a club, much like the Rabbitohs had done 6 or 7 years earlier. Again, you were brought in as the leader to try and set the standards on the training paddock and in the change room to allow the next generation to see what you did and mimic your actions. It's a significant role and responsibility, isn't it? Trying to mould these young men who are wonderful athletes into just good blokes.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose that's the hardest thing nowadays is, like, you can get the best young kid, but yet if he's no good in the change room or he can't hang around and have a chat, well, then what good is he? Because the culture is built around the team dynamics of everyone getting along, and if you can't get along with one person, well, then obviously he must be the sour grape that needs to be moved on. I suppose that's the one thing that Flano had me there for, to try and build that culture. And people always ask you how does Melbourne get such a good culture? It's because they have a no dickhead policy. If someone doesn't fit into the group, they are sold out, which is...
I can see that happening at other clubs now, and if you are that dickhead, your options in 2021 are fast running out, because most coaches and boards realise that, the one bad apple in the group can spoil a whole lot.
Yeah, definitely, and it just runs through the club like a cancer. And
Yep.
once you know your club is going well, it's like when we went to the Dragons. Once the club was going well,
Yep.
there was nothing going to stop it. You know, it's like Penrith at the moment. Penrith are on fire, and they've got a good group of players that
Yep.
obviously love hanging around one another, and you can see it on the field.
At this time or around this time, the Sharks were also in their headlines. It seemed like every day. The joint was struggling under the weight of the drug investigation on a personal level. How did you cope with that? Because immense pressure on the club and on the individuals involved in the club.
Yeah, definitely. That was hard. That was it got touted as the darkest day in rugby league.
Yeah.
You know, and to be a part of was never, it was never going to be nice. There was never a nice outcome. Whether we did or we didn't, we didn't know. Like we didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just the way it was. Like you have a supplement, you take it,
Yep.
and it's on the club to duty of care. Everyone's going, but did you know? I'm like, well, no, we didn't know. Like
We were told.
we were told, and that was what we did.
Do you find it easy to deal with issues like that? Because it's not a football-related issue. It's a life issue that has personal implications.
Yeah, definitely.
Is it easy to deal with? Can you block that out, or does it have an effect?
Well, it did have an effect, like because at one stage there, every time you type in my name into Google, like the first thing that would come up would the ASADA drug allegations, which is
Yep.
for myself, my family, the kids growing up, they want to let's Google Dad, and
Yep.
that's what comes up, like which was it was tough at the time, but.
Yeah.
It's not so much now. I'm just like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's footy. We admitted guilt to something we weren't guilty of just to get everyone off our back, pretty much,
and to keep playing.
and to keep playing.
Yeah. And again, you were brought in to create the culture within the dressing room, and a couple of years later, those young men that you had a hand in pointing in the right direction would win the Premiership. Yeah. Was that rewarding for you? I mean, you're at the Knights at this stage, but did you watch that grand final and think, this is cool?
Yeah, I was down at the grand, because I retired that year, I think. What year is that, 2016?
16.
Yeah, so I retired that year, and they played Melbourne, and I remember being with all the boys that had retired, and I had to do a Q&A at half-time.
Yep.
Who you got? I'm like, you know what, I hope Cronulla go well. I hope Melbourne do well. So you're sitting on the fence. Of course I'm sitting on the fence. Like, I'm not going to pick one club over another.
Yeah.
I love both the clubs that I played for.
The lure to link with Wayne Bennett while you're still at the Sharks, how strong was that?
It's funny because I had a good relationship with Wayne. Obviously, we had him in from the 2008, the Anzac test that he helped out with.
Yep.
And we just struck off on a good note, and
Yeah.
I'd always talk to him and keep in touch with him. And then obviously when I was because he let me go, because he did the same thing as Bellyache did to me at the Storm. He
Yes.
pulled me aside and said, we've got Matt Cooper coming back. Not Coops, Gaz coming back.
Yep.
So we've got to free up some space here. I'm getting on now because I was 30, turning 31, so a bit long in the tooth there. He goes, just go off and obviously make as much money as you can while you can still play half decent footy and get your money's worth there. So obviously I went to Cronulla and then played there, and then I'd always talk to him and said, mate, you need someone like me up there to...
You sold yourself. Yeah.
But then obviously made him pay for it.
Yeah,
pay for it too as well. So getting up there and reuniting with Wayne was it was pretty handy. It was good.
Griffin Air Conditioning offers the highest quality of air conditioning sales and service across the Sydney metropolitan area, providing installation and maintenance to commercial, domestic and industrial customers. Working with this team, you'll be guaranteed the latest services, technology and developments in the industry. Visit griffinair.com.au and tell them we sent you for a cool deal. He's different, isn't he?
He is a different creature. He's
a different creature, but also very different from the Wayne he wants us to believe that he is. Because that's just not him.
No, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And the Wayne, that's what people say. Is he really like that? No, he's not like that. He sits down the back of the bus. He loves hearing all the stories that the boys are tossing up, and tries to chime in there with his dry sense humour. But I suppose that's Wayne, and that's the way he wants to be perceived by the public.
The Newcastle dream looks so positive. Let's get Wayne Bennett in. Let's get a group of hard-nosed, seasoned veterans in. We've got Nathan Tinkler and we've got the money. It looked great. The dream was alive. Didn't end as well as, I guess, what everyone would have hoped, did it?
No, definitely not. I think 2013 we had a pretty good year. We got to the prelim final that year. I remember leaving Newcastle, and this is why I hold up Newcastle in a real soft spot from playing there. Obviously, we left Mayfield, and we're on our way out, and the streets were just lined with like flags all the way to the freeway, and then going along the freeway, there's like the odd flag waving, and it still gives me like goosebumps now thinking about.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and they always said like when Newcastle are doing well, the town is doing well, and you notice the difference, like especially in 2013 when we had that good run to the semis, and you certainly notice a difference.
Retirement at the end of 2016. Why? Some say, okay, my body's had enough. Some say their mind has moved on. Was it either of those or both of those for you?
Mentally, for me, the kids were getting bigger and faster and stronger. The body was still hanging in there. I could have played one more year, but I just mentally thinking of another pre-season, trying to get that out of the way and limping into round one. And towards the back end of my career, I'd barely train just purely because I'd put my body through absolute torture just to try and keep the respect of the change room and make sure the boys I'm leading by example, and I didn't want to let anyone down. So, but just mentally thinking about, I suppose, the pre-season, because they do get pretty grueling, and I just didn't have it in me to go again.
We can sit here with the benefit of hindsight, but as we look back over the last 20 years, the way the game has changed and the way the players that play the game have changed. Your style and the style of Michael Crocker and guys of the like, the game almost outgrew you as you got into your latter years.
Yeah, definitely. I think the old hustle and bustle and,
that's it.
Try and flex your muscle and you run at me and I'll run at you all day. That's gone, I'd have to chase someone to try and get hold of you to square up now. Yeah. But I suppose watching the game, it's fast and exciting, but definitely. I suppose a bit like Trent Merrin at the moment. He knows that he can't keep up with the pace of the game, and which is credit to him, because I would never let the game
You wouldn't let it beat you.
Yeah, I wouldn't let it beat me. And I suppose when I obviously retired, I retired at the right time, and the game was only getting quicker. The kids were getting younger, faster, bigger, stronger, and I just stayed the same, which was never nice.
The game has tidied up so much for the mums that want the 6-year-olds to play. The world is politically correct to a point of craziness. The game has changed on the field. Do you like the game you see now, where there can be so much niggle and so much niggle from a halfback, because the halfback knows he's not going to cop a punch in the face?
No, I don't like it.
No.
I just think it's an easy out for the little blokes that get lippy, that obviously can't hold their hands up. But no, I'd prefer, like, if you're going to get cheeky, well, then you're going to get one around the ears.
Because generally the big blokes don't get lippy. They just start throwing hands, but the little blokes get lippy and then hide behind the big blokes.
Yes, no, definitely. It's I'm all for it. It's like some of the penalties they give away now. I'm just like, was that really a penalty, or were you just trying to please the crowd, or trying to keep your job for next week, I suppose. But
that's it. Yeah,
it's definitely not what the game used to be, and I suppose the game was different before I played as well. So it was rough and tougher again, which is, I like that sort of style of game, and I dare say Croc would have been right next to me too.
Exactly right. Forgotten fact number 2. You're a goal kicker. 2 from 3 with a career success rate of 66%. You'd probably be able to remember both your successful kicks.
I remember I kicked one in my second last game, I think. But I kicked for New Zealand too. We went on tour one year. I think it was a 2007 tour over to England. We played Great Britain. Me and Christian Inu had a kick off after our last training run, and I got the job, and I couldn't miss over there either.
Wow.
Might find that. David Middleton might find that in the archives.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look. You were born in New Zealand, Samoan heritage. You represented the Kiwis 23 times, not Samoa ever. Would have you liked to have repped them? It's now easier to represent, the emerging nations, the Samoas, the Tongas. Would have you liked to have represented them once?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you say that, because in 2005, I was moving house from Melbourne to the outer parts of Melbourne.
Yep.
And I was meant to go up and play for Samoa. They were playing Tonga at Campbelltown.
Okay.
In 2005, and I'd said, I'd agreed to play, but didn't realise my house settled on that day to go and move house. So, because I never ever thought in my wildest dreams that I would have played for New Zealand. So, Samoa was always going to be my country of choice.
Yep. What do you recall of the first time you represented New Zealand? How special, how emotional?
Oh, it was pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Played, I think, was it 2007 we played? Oh,
yes.
Oh, yeah, I remember it fondly. We played bloody Australia in Wellington, and we got touched by 50. Oh. We kicked off, and I think Big Pet dropped the ball. Petro dropped the ball, or the ball bounced back towards me, and I just run straight onto it.
Yeah.
And I picked the ball up, and I just seen the line right there, and I was just like, oh. And I think Gary Kemble was our coach at the time.
Yeah.
Come off at halftime, he goes, mate, why didn't you pass the ball? Like, there was open spaces outside here. I said, mate, this is my first test, my first touch of the ball. I'm not passing the ball.
No.
I could have scored a try. So that was it. We ended up going over to Great Britain that year, and we got beat 3-0 by the Brits, but they had a good team that year.
It was about this time that the culture in international rugby league started to change, in the fact that you wouldn't just go and play for your nation, you'd learn about your nation's history. It was a period where, for New Zealand Rugby League, they moved into a really professional and successful state. Things like learning about the culture, learning about the haka and the meaning of it, it wasn't just something you did, you learned about the history of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, because that was the year 2008 when Steve Kearney Mooks come on board. He was coaching the Kiwis. I remember playing Great Britain over there, and Big Mozza come up to me, Adrian Morley, after the game, and it just beat us 3-0. He just said, mate, don't worry, like, your country's in good hands. And I took that a little bit personal. Like, I'm like, well, no, it's not in good hands at the moment. You know, we're over here busting our ass, and we can't even be competitive against you. You know what I mean? So when I went back and Mooks got the job, I sat down with Mooks and I just said, like, listen, this is where we're at. And I took it real personal about him saying that to me after that game. You'll be all right. Your country's this. I was like, well, I'm not copping that on the chin. Yeah. So I went back and obviously had a little fair bit to do with Mooks, and obviously it being him in Melbourne, so we'd always talking and chatting, and then we played the Anzac, the centenary test. Yeah. Put up not the best fight, but it was half decent.
Yeah, and I agree.
Obviously the World Cup that year we went on, and we just hit our straps that year. I think everyone knew their role. Yeah. We had a good culture. We had the boys that liked hanging around each other. Yeah. We'd sit in the team room for hours on end, playing cards, singing music, you know, doing what Kiwis do, and just chatting.
Good blokes.
Good blokes.
Great footballers. And what a wonderful result against the odds. That final at Suncorp, just amazing.
Yeah, definitely. It was, the Aussies, they'd sort of come out. They sort of had a tough preparation too. They played, I think they played PNG and then Fiji in the semi, and then played us in the final. And we had England and then played England again. So we were battled hard. We had hardness on our side, and I just think that sort of, our mindset leading into that game, we were physically ready, mentally ready, and we were ready.
What was your strength as a player and as a teammate? If you look back now, what would you like other blokes to say about you?
Other blokes on my team, or playing against?
Playing against, they still say lots of things about you. You've scarred them for life.
I know.
Now, the guys you played with, what would you like to be remembered as?
Playing with, definitely. Playing with, I suppose. Someone that you could definitely count on. Wouldn't let you down. I didn't really say too much, but when I did talk it, I must have either had the shits or I'm trying to get my point across.
Yep.
But yeah, I suppose good bloke in the change room and just a good knock around.
215 games, 23 tests, a reputation as a bloke who's decent, honest and loyal on and off the field. Jeremy Smith, you, sir, are a legend.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed the Jeremy Smith story. Before you go, make sure you've subscribed to the podcast wherever you're listening so the next episode drops immediately. And we'd love a 5-star rating and review if you could. It really helps spread the word about the Unfiltered brand and allows us to bring you more. Make sure you come back soon, legends.